Hey, come on! Hey! Vigilante. Even the sound of it sounds tough. But to call a video game Vigilante, the mind must conjure up all sorts of violent happenings. But in reality, this is a game where you die if you get hugged too much. Released by Irem in 1988 and seen by many as the spiritual successor to Kung Fu Master, Vigilante was originally called Beyond Kung Fu Master, but the name and several other changes were made after early location testing revealed nobody was interested in playing it. A little bit of binary surgery and the game's setting was changed to a more Americanised one, and the Vigilante name was adopted and given this American flag logo just in case you weren't sure. Players control the titular character using punches and kicks to defeat the skinheads in a 2D platform manner, while sometimes picking up and using nunchucks against them. If players get hurt while holding the nunchucks, they become unarmed. There are 5 stages in order of appearance: a street, a junkyard, the Brooklyn Bridge, a backstreet scene, and on top of a building that is under construction. Skinheads with mohawk or spiked hairdos attack the vigilantes with knives, chains, motorbikes, guns, and other kinds of weapons. They will also hug him to death if he lets them get too close. The game follows the same single plane format as Kung Fu Master, and the same relentless onslaught of enemies just walking towards you. But this time the hero can pick up a weapon to help him battle through the horde. Although the addition of the weapon doesn't make him any stronger, it just allows a wider reach. By now, most games of this type had adopted the Kung Fu Master approach to level design, which was fight off hordes of villains and then square off against a level boss. The other thing that was adopted in this type of game was the kidnapped girlfriend story, except this time it's Madonna who has been kidnapped. No, not that one. This one. His old lady. Vigilante was one of those games that was immense fun to play. There was always something so satisfying about just standing there and throwing your nunchucks at the oncoming horde of villains as they blindly walk into your path. But more than that, this was a game that was fairly challenging. But the more you played it, the more you learned the boss attacks, and then you could defeat them with just standing in the right place and using the same move again and again. Again, a theme that had become common in a lot of video games of this era. The look and feel of Vigilante is pretty much the same as Kung Fu Master, but visually the graphics have improved, and I would say the visuals are fairly unique. They have this sort of washed out colour look to them, and there is not a lot of detail to be had anywhere. but I think this makes it seem more like a cheap comic strip to help illustrate the cartoony levels of violence. The backgrounds are also very repetitive, again like a cheap comic strip, and yet again no real detail to be had. But the Brooklyn Bridge background does showcase some of the famous Manhattan skyline in the distance. The sound is very gritty sounding, with the background music having this 80s cop TV show sound to it. It actually does sound pretty good. In fact, I think these tunes are excellent, and each level has its own soundtrack, which was a massive improvement over Kung Fu Master. The sound effects are pretty good throughout, with some sampled speech found at times from the end of level bosses, which was a rarity for this time. And the punch and kick sound effects sound very hefty when connecting with an enemy. Again, these sound like they've been lifted from an 80s TV cop show. Only a limited moveset and a single plane, the action is very linear indeed. You basically just hit left or right and try to avoid getting crowded out by the enemies. But that's not to say that Vigilante isn't a fun game to play, as it is hugely enjoyable, and at the time, with its unique visual style and excellent soundtrack, it certainly pulled in the punters to have a go. And because of this success, it was ported over to just about every home format imaginable at the time, and the PC Engine version in particular garnered high praise. But the version I played at home was the Master System version. Obviously, the visuals have taken a hit in this version, as everything is much smaller and blockier. But I always thought this version of the game was a good, faithful reproduction of the arcade smash hit. There are some obvious omissions, such as the variety of enemies, the fact that there is only one boss at the end of level 2, and in general, there are fewer enemies on screen. But this game does play every bit as good as the arcade. I remember borrowing this game from a mate of a mate at school and being impressed with it. It had been a while since I played it in the arcades, and so I was playing this. I was convinced it was pretty close to the arcade. And you might laugh at that comment, and you're entitled to, but let me explain. The fact that visually and sonically this game was very far removed from the arcade had nothing to do with it. When you play this version, it felt every bit as good as the arcade game. And this game is a good example that shows that fancy graphics do not make a game. Playability is what makes a game great, and this game is very playable indeed. Unfortunately, the game was pretty easy to beat, and so repeated playthroughs became a matter of seeing who could rack up the highest score, or who could beat it in the fastest time, compared to your mates. But overall, I rate the Master System version of Vigilante very highly indeed, and I do recommend you give it a go if you haven't already, or even play the arcade version if you want to play the game on a higher difficulty setting. And that was my look back at Vigilante. If you like this video, then please do give me a sub and a thumbs up, or maybe even a comment or two below about your memories of Vigilante. And that's all from me, folks. Thanks for watching.